What is happening, people? Welcome back to Gooner Down on the TV, and here we are, just like that. Preseason is over. Not gonna lie, I'm gonna have to start playing myself into season form. You know, here in Australia, this friendly was one of the earlier games we get. It was 11 p.m., but I'm absolutely knackered by the end of it, so we're gonna have to try and smash through this video. Throughout the week, we might need to start, practicing, getting, staying up at night, being ready for that opening game of the season, because we must be there. But it looked good, man. Arsenal looked good on the front foot. It was a beautiful game to watch, even though it was a pre-season. I think those first 20, 30 minutes, Arsenal just pinned Lyon back and back and back. It looked like really it was a men's team against an under-10 youth team at some points. Lyon had nothing when Arsenal was sort of on that front foot. It looked good. It looked positive. Before we get into sort of 5 key takeaways, please, if you like these sort of videos, make sure to like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And now with that, no mucking around. We've got to get to sleep. We've got to go with the first key takeaway of this game. And we'll also look at preseason as a whole. But especially this game, looking forward to that first game of the season. I think we've basically got our starting 11 all sorted. I think that preseason game was really big for us. Showed us who's likely to play against Wolves next weekend. And I think this is what we're going to have. I don't think Arteta's going to really change anything. I think he sort of chose this lineup for a reason. Zinchenko, maybe he's one that could sort of get switched out. I don't see it, especially with Calafiori's limited minutes. And I'll hold my hand. Last video I sort of said I don't want to see Zinchenko start anymore. Maybe off the bench as a sort of like key impact player, come in, do his thing. And that hasn't necessarily changed, but he has played. He's been in really good form the last couple of games. I can't really sort of say anything. I think defensively, we all know his limitations. On the ball, we all know his positives, and it's just that balance. We're so good defensively. If teams have one key area to target, one weakness, you're only as strong as your weakest link. I think we can get exposed by that. So I don't want Zinchenko starting too many games, to be honest. He has looked good, and I'm not too worried against Wolves. I think we can maybe sort of make it work, especially with them losing Pedro Neto. I think that's going to definitely help us. And, Zinchenko, maybe we ride his good form until Calafiori can hopefully get up, ready, fit. He had a very small cameo today, only played 30 minutes the whole preseason. I don't see him starting anytime soon. I think it would probably be at least 2-3 games before we maybe see him start. So it looks like it's going to be Zinchenko. Let me know what your thoughts of him starting are. Like I said, for me, on the ball, we know what he is. He's brilliant. Technically, besides Odegaard, maybe our most technical player. But I feel like when we sort of have one key weakness in that defense for teams to target, it just pokes holes in what else is a really, really good defense. But it looks like he's going to start. We just got to move with it. Midfield is where I'm probably the happiest with. This was the midfield we wanted to see all of last season from the start. We got to see it in glimpses towards the end of the season. And Partey, Rice, Odegaard is going to be beautiful. Again, I don't want this the whole time. One, because we know it's not reliable. Why? Because unfortunately Partey is probably going to get injured. That's just been his track record the last few years. Hopefully he can sort of replicate 2 seasons ago where he did play a very big chunk of games. And if that's the case, I think we have a really powerful midfield in there. Of course, right at the 8, Rice at the 8 isn't my favorite. I like him being that sort of destroyer in the 6, but I think if you put him next to Partey, Partey also supplements some of that passing range or some of the lack of passing that maybe Rice has. They contribute. My gosh, guys, it's late. They complement each other really well. And then in front of them, Odegaard, absolute wizard. So the 3 of them, nice, strong. No one's really going to out-battle us in that midfield. I think that's arguably one of the strongest midfields in the world. I don't think we're going to get overrun. I think against any team, we can really control the ball, dominate it. If we can maybe just get 1-8, it looks like we're getting Mikel Moreno. I think we might need a little bit more just because, like I said, Partey's likely going to get injured at some point. Then I want Rice to start at 6. I love Jorginho. I just don't want him playing, too many games consecutively. You saw today, he comes in. Sometimes he's a bit rusty. Sometimes a little bit shaky. Makes that little error here and there. We saw it against Tottenham. Today, Keeper made a throw. Jorginho tried, thought he could clear it, completely missed it. We could have conceded. Against Wolves, who knows? Maybe that's 1-0. Against any other Premier League team, we're not necessarily breaking them down. We're struggling. One chance, one goal. So I think we're going to need a little bit more in that midfield. Mikel Merino is good. Attacking wise, at points, I would say he has a similar weakness as Rice, where he's maybe not the most creative player. He's very good technically, good short passes and things like that. Don't know if he's necessarily going to break teams down. Does have, very good capabilities in the air where he can sort of crash into the box, make late runs. But I would like one more sort of attacking 8 as well. I've talked about Fabian Ruiz on this channel. If we could somehow get both, I think that would be the perfect complement. Depending on the game, you can switch them in. But looks like Mikel Merino is going to come in. If that's the case, I think I would try and ride out this midfield for as long as we can. I think it would still be our strongest midfield. Partey at full health. For me, he's one of the best DMs in the world. Just we don't get that enough. So maybe if Mikel comes in, we'd ride that midfield as long as we can. Like I said, no one's really going to control us too much. No one's going to be able to overrun us in that midfield. We have 2 absolute destroyers, 2 tanks in that midfield, next to someone who's, brilliant as Odegaard. It's a tough sort of recipe to beat. And then maybe, if Partey starts lacking a bit of fitness, we can chuck Moreno, bring Rice back to the 6, but still, I think we're a bit too light in there. Odegaard goes down, we're left with Fabio Vieira. Has he been looking convincing enough? I don't think so. Forget that attacking 8. That way, if Odegaard goes down, we can also chuck him in there with Moreno, Rice or Partey in the 6. I like that. And then up top, we have Martinelli, Havertz, Saka. We'll get into the attack a bit later on. But for now, I've been waffling on about point number 1. This is looking like our starting lineup. Let's go into the second key takeaway. And it's something building off of last season. 1, our defense is going to be immaculate. 2, we're going to be dangerous on set pieces. You saw today against Lyon, 2 goals, 2 set pieces, Gabriel and Saliba. Now you add Calafiori into that. You have White there, who's always a damn menace with the goalkeeper, tickling their underarm, whatever it takes. We have some big damn boys ready to battle for every set piece. You chuck in, Rice if Saka's necessarily taking the corner. You chuck in Havertz as well. We got some units. And you know what? Sometimes you need that. You're not going to be able to break every single team down every game in the Premier League. Sometimes it's just not going your way. What do? You loft one in the area. Calafiori might get to it. Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel, Havertz, Rice. We got options and it looks really, really good. Especially that first goal. A lot of times teams against Arsenal, they're going to try and set that low block. They're going to get everyone behind the ball. If we're not moving as quickly as we can, creating chances after chance, we might struggle. First goal, always the hardest. If we can get a set piece to bail us out more often than not, I think that's another good recipe. So that's my second key takeaway. Not necessarily something that's groundbreaking, but just adding that Calafiori coming into that, I think definitely does help. It was a bit of an odd cameo from him. Played a bit of it left back, bit of it centre back. So far, I like what I see. Even at left back, not necessarily the most mobile player, but I think we knew this. I guess you could maybe link it towards a Ben White on the left. Although, he did some good things. The way he changes directions really quickly, his no-look passes, you can see that he's really confident on the ball. Especially, not that a no-look pass is everything, but it's the confidence on the ball. It's your first game in front of a new crowd. You don't want to mess up. He seems like he didn't care. Has that freedom, It was a really good sign. Really good sign. Like I said, I don't really expect him to start anytime soon. By anytime soon, I mean the next 2 games. Maybe we need patience. Because, he played such little. He looked, a little bit leggy. Didn't look the most up to it. But I like what I saw. I'm very confident. I don't really have any doubts about him, to be honest. Just hoping he stays healthy, and I think we've got an absolute steal on our hands. With that, let's move on. Takeaway number 3. It's our attack, man. It is our attack. So we're at this point in the window. We have not signed any attacking players. We haven't signed anyone but Calafiori. I don't know why my thing is... don't know why I'm flipped out here. And so really one of these guys are going to have to step up. Martinelli, Havertz, Jesus, we need at least 15, 16 goals from two of them, I think. You know, Havertz got the nod to start. I expect him to start. He finished the season strong. You know, off the ball, he makes really good runs. He distracts the other team. I know that sounds stupid, but he makes life a living hell for the other team centre backs. And I think if you have two dynamic wingers either side of him, I think that really opens up the game for them as well. You know, it's harder to maybe double up on them. That way, if they're getting doubled up on, it's maybe someone from the midfield, leaving the likes of Odegaard and Rice open. And so, you know, does well, just needs to contribute those goals. You know, yes, it's lovely seeing all this, all that. At the end of the day, you want your strikers to score goals. Next up, Martinelli came in today, looked good. Don't worry about that random lighting. You just got to keep moving on. But the only thing with Martinelli is sometimes his decision-making really gets to me, man. I love him. Again, he's exciting, he's dynamic. But when it comes down to it, you know, he's always just, I feel like he's holding on to it a little bit too much. It's like he doesn't exactly know what to do. For me, we really need to bring in someone to replace him. You know, off the bench, I think he would be perfect. Imagine him coming off constantly 15, 20, 30 minutes to go against tired opponents. I think that's when we could really see the best out of him. You know, not saying he's finished, he's done, anything like that. But if we want to take that next level, I think we need to bring in someone a little bit more accomplished than Martinelli. And then, you know, that depth allows Martinelli to be our bench, which makes our bench that much stronger. Like I said, I feel like him coming off the bench against tired defenders, he would really, really dominate. Jesus, I want to see him start pulling up his weight too. Like I said, we're light at the moment. It's really Havertz and Jesus as our two strikers. Looks like Nketiah is leaving. And so they're going to have to really step up, man. I'm starting to get more doubtful that we're even going to bring in any attackers as the weeks go on, as the days go on, as the minutes go on. So we're looking real light. This is our chance to win the Premier League. Looks like Arteta's really trusting them. They're going to have to step up. Let me know who you would start. For me, I think Havertz should start based off last season, based off even what we've seen in pre-season. And I think as well, his height adds a lot to our team, especially maybe when we're struggling. You know, we need to put in some balls into the area. I think he's really good at that. Then, like what we saw today, if we're not doing well, maybe Jesus can come on. He can drop into that midfield. I'm not I know there's a lot of critics of Havertz in midfield. I'm not necessarily against it. I think his best position is probably striker. If we're struggling, chucking him in midfield, allowing him to sort of make those underlapping runs, I don't mind as a second option. At least allows him and Jesus to just link up a lot of minutes together. But with that being said, let's move into the fourth key takeaway. For me, it is Martin Odegaard. Now, we all know Martin Odegaard. He's a damn captain. We know how good he is. But for me, he's looked unreal these last few games. And I want to see this consistently. For me, sometimes I feel like we get a few good games from Odegaard. Then he, not ghosts, but doesn't necessarily, stomp, gain authority in the game. It's too tight to even think of analogies, guys. You know what I mean? He's there making a few nice, sweet passes, not really impacting the game that much, but we need him to really take over. I want him to be a player of the season candidate. I think if that happens, we have a really good shot at the title. He has all the abilities you've seen, last season, but especially in preseason now. He's in good form. He's creating a lot. Some of the passes he was playing into Havertz, Martinelli, they need to take advantage of those, but if he can keep creating those on a constant basis, I think that would, you know what I mean? Because like I've seen saying it, I don't think we've created enough chances. Last season, I don't think we created nearly enough for the amount of goals we scored. I know a lot of people say we don't have a clinical striker, we don't score our chances. But for me, look, we didn't really create that much. I think we were, 5th, 6th in big chances created, 2nd in goals. That shows we're quite clinical when we actually get the opportunity. And I think he really needs to campaign us this season. I want to be a team that creates a lot more. We can't rely on just having 1, 2 big chances a game. Because, the odds of scoring those aren't that great, especially with the strikers we have, the attackers we have. We need to be able to create a lot more while controlling the game, while, pinning teams on their back foot. And if Odegaard can sort of get that, I think we are in a really, really good position. Last but not least, last key takeaway, we're going with Nwaneri, we're going with Lewis Skelly. These are the two youth graduates for me. I think Arteta showed us his sort of faith in them two. They were the only two academy players coming into the game against Lyon. For me, they're both really good. I don't want them starting. I don't want them playing a lot of minutes by any means, but I do want to see them trickled in throughout the season. Nwaneri looks really good as a box-to-box midfielder. Lewis Skelly's impressed me as a left-back. He's athletic, he's mobile, he changes direction quickly, his passing looks good. Any cup games, maybe not FA Cup, definitely Carabao Cup, I want to see these guys starting. Then anytime we're sort of winning 3-0, chuck them on, give them 10-minute cameos, let them build up their confidence, because who knows, they might be our breakout players. They might be the players who sort of come out of nowhere, really just claim a position. If Zinchenko's struggling, Calafiori's, not able to get up to scratch, maybe struggling with some injuries, who knows, maybe Lewis Skelly's the guy. I'm not saying it is, I'm not really even banking on it, but looks like these two are the next Haaland projects, or like prodigies? That sounds about right, huh? Looks like these two are the next ones. Hopefully they can start getting a little bit more playing time year on year. Then maybe, who knows, 3 years from now, maybe they're starting. But I think that's definitely a big sort of note of confidence from Arteta. Playing them, these two guys. Guys, I'm done. It's 1:23 in the morning. We gotta get to sleep. But these are my 5 key takeaways. Starting 11 for me has pretty much been secured for next game. 2 set pieces, we're going to be monsters. Defending, we're going to be absolute monsters again. Calafiori in his little cameo looks good, encouraging. I'm excited to see him play more and more. Hopefully, against Wolves, etc., he can come on, maybe get 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then start that third game even. Next, we need Martinelli, Havertz, Jesus. We need 2 of them to, I think, get 15 plus goals. We cannot be having Jesus grabbing 6, 7, Martinelli grabbing 3, 4, then Havertz grabbing 13. We need at least 2 out of 3, really producing, really getting that end product up. Number 4, I want Martin Odegaard to be player of the season candidate. He's looked amazing in preseason. I want him to take that next level, be consistent, be the best midfielder in the world. He's right there. He's very close to me. Very close. I think consistency and just elevating that top end game a little bit will definitely help. Last, Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly look like the next 2 sort of academy prodigies. Hopefully they can start getting some more playing time. Let me know what you've thought of preseason, what your thoughts are on the season as a whole coming up. I'll see you in that next one, peeps. Peace.